Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal, and as the beta servers go down for another maintenance build, we got ourselves another fairly sizable update for Mythic Plus Dungeons for the next expansion, as they are looking to revamp the entire Mythic Plus system all over again. Based on community feedback, they decided to go in a different direction for the Mythic Plus season by introducing more thematic feel for some of the dungeon affixes, but also removing some of the less desired player affixes, which is almost all of them being cut out across the board. They also wanted to give more affixes into the game with a positive and negative effect, which are some of the players' favorites, while also allowing opportunity for players that are pushing high-end key content to have a bit more consistency. In today's video, I want to do a full overview of the entire Mythic Plus dungeon system adjustment that's arriving with this week's beta build. Also, there's going to be plenty of dungeon testing available starting today over on the War Within beta, which will be streaming on this channel over the next few days. If you guys enjoy the regular updates for the War Within beta, be sure to follow the channel. Otherwise, let's dive right into these changes. So as part of this update, 4 affixes are now going to be on the chopping block. Those are Sanguine, Bolstering, Raging, and Bursting. Sanguine, Bolstering, and Bursting are in particular some of the biggest offenders that can make certain dungeons really less enjoyable to play because they exert too much pressure on a healer, too much pressure on a tank positioning, but also in terms of how you pull some of the enemy trash packs, it could really make a wide swing in terms of how efficient you could do a dungeon or how quickly you can do it, and certain classes were necessary in order to make some of those affixes much easier to play against. Also, the 4 new affixes that were added for the Mythic Plus testing, things such as Reckless, Focused, Attuned, and Thorned, are also being removed as well. They're not going to follow through with those types of affixes, and instead they're going to restructure the affix system to be completely different. So this is what the structure looks like now. As for the new affixes, starting at a +2, Xal'atath herself is now going to manifest into these dungeons, introducing a rotation of affixes known as Xal'atath's Bargain, which offers some of these thematic components that players can start to benefit from, starting from a +2 difficulty. These bargain affixes are mostly there to empower dungeon packs, but also offer players some form of a benefit, like Xal'atath's Bargain of Ascendant. While in combat, Xal'atath will rain down orbs of cosmic energy, attempting to empower nearby enemies with haste and movement speed. However, if players disrupt these orbs, they claim these benefits for themselves. Then we have the Xal'atath's Bargain of Frenzied. Non-boss enemies become frenzied at 30% health, increasing their haste by 40%, but also increasing their damage taken by 20%. This is again a kiss course mechanic where yes, the enemies are going to be a little bit scarier, but also they're going to take additional damage, which makes execute classes even more efficient at finishing off these powerful foes. At a +7 affix, you will now get Challenger's Peril themed affix, which will affect the dungeon timer instead of dungeon mechanics, which basically subtracts 15 seconds from the dungeon timer instead of the regular 5 seconds, which promotes proper play and not dying to random mechanics if you can help it. Though at the same time, players are having to deal with only one thematic gameplay defining affix, so hopefully it'll help them focus on a dungeon more than the affixes and managing all the different trash packs and boss mechanics. And at a +12 affix, when you're really trying to push high-end content, Xal'atath will replace the Bargain with Xal'atath's Guile, so no longer do you have the thematic affix present. Instead, Xal'atath will get to betray players, revoking all of her bargains, and instead increasing the health and damage of enemies by 20%. A pretty boring damage increase, but it takes out the mechanical affix out of the rotation when it comes to pushing dungeon content, which should hopefully allow some of the players that are pushing for content a bit more consistency. Yes, enemies are going to hit a little harder, but you no longer have to manage all these mechanics while things are hitting you harder at the same time. Fortified and tyrannical affixes in particular are not removed out of this rotation. Instead, they are adjusted when will be present starting at the +4 and the +10 difficulties, rotating out every single week. So to summarize all of these affixes, at a +2, Xal'atath is going to be present within these dungeons, granting one of her bargains. These will rotate on a weekly basis. Then at a +4, either fortified or tyrannical become enabled, and these also rotate every single week. At a +7, Challenger's Peril is going to be active, which means try not to die in dungeons because that timer is going to be a little bit less forgiving. And at a plus 10, Fortified and Tyrannical are going to be additionally added as well. So if you had a Fortified at a plus 4, then you'll get a Tyrannical at a plus 10. Or if you had a Tyrannical at a plus 4, you'll get a Fortified at a plus 10. So by plus 10 difficulty, both Fortified and Tyrannical affixes are all active. So if you have a key that is at a plus 12 difficulty, both Fortified and Tyrannical are active. The Challenger's Peril Timer Cut Down affix is present, and Xal'atath's Bargain is replaced with Xal'atath's Guile, adding a 20% damage buff to all dungeon creatures for that keystone level. As a brand new system, it is definitely going to have to go through some rigorous testing, and testing is going to be available throughout this entire week over on the beta to give players as much of an opportunity to try out all of these new thematic as well as damage enhancing affixes. But for the most part, the new system is supposed to offer entry players that are just stepping their foot into Mythic Plus content for this expansion a variety as well as thematic elements for them to explore. Well, there's plenty of opportunity for players to feel quite powerful with all these damage and buffs or kiss curse mechanics that come from the Xal'atath specific affixes, which allows players to feel challenged playing around these affixes, especially at the lower levels, while dungeons don't really hit super hard at like a plus 2, plus 3, and plus 4 difficulties. But as you scale up in content, the dungeons are going to play around these simple affixes with just one unique addition, though they are trying to find ways to encourage proper play, which is why we have those time-based affixes in order to make deaths a little bit more punishing. But also you don't overload players with a bunch of different mechanics for them to play around. You don't get one additional mechanical affixes as well as dungeon mobs that are hitting harder. Instead, you just get one affix, the dungeon, as well as bigger punishment for dying early. And as you get to push keys to higher levels, like if you're just trying to go for as much core as possible, they want to offer players the most amount of consistency with the infinitely scaling content without necessarily giving players new mechanics to overcome, because players pushing at a plus 12 and above are simply just seeing damage enhancements for all of the mobs, all of the bosses, and every single creature within the dungeon, with both Fortified, Tyrannical, and the Xal'atath's Guile empowering everything within dungeons. So everything is simply just going to hit harder, but mechanically, there isn't new things for you to explore. But with that being said, that's a fairly large amount of changes that's coming out to the Mythic Plus dungeons. The removal of some of the older affixes that a lot of players do not like, I think is a good step forward. Limiting the amount of affixes present within dungeon, I think is also a good step forward as well, especially when it comes to newer players having to learn the content, because a lot of those players not only have to learn what every single trash pack does, what every single boss does, but also what every single affix does. This allows them to focus on the dungeon that's in front of them and not be overloaded by too much information happening all at once, while also being able to properly learn each and every single one of the mechanics and learn how to execute them more effectively. I think the addition of Kiss and Curse is going to be great for newer entry-level players, and while the high-end dungeons are probably going to be a little bit more boring, I think the consistency is going to give players a little bit more potential to keep pushing content no matter the week that we have available. So this allows you to bring a bit more variety to dungeons, but also remove some of this inconsistency that happened with the rotating set of affixes. But with that being said, I kind of want to hear you guys' thoughts down in the comments below. What do you think about these dungeon changes coming out in this week's beta build? As of me recording this video, the servers are right now down for maintenance, and hopefully they'll be available sometime later this evening, as testing is set to begin as of this Tuesday and run throughout the rest of the week. And we'll definitely be testing out a lot of these dungeons over on the stream. You guys are more than welcome to join us as we do more dungeon testing. But let me know all your thoughts, what you think about all of these dungeon changes, the affix removals, and affix adjustments in the comments down below. As per usual, if you guys enjoyed this video or found it informative, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I would very much appreciate it. And as always, in the description of every single video and live stream, we have a link to our Discord community channel. Probably the best place to reach out to me directly in case you want to let me know what you thought about this video or hang out with the rest of the community to discuss some of the upcoming changes. Join our Discord to become part of the community. But otherwise, thank you all so much for watching this video. I do hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know all of your thoughts down below. And as always, I'll see all of you guys in another video.